I'm driven by like the idea of creating the thing that hasn't been seen before. You get a lot of information, visual information and DNA from those two characters alone.
And the more the AI can do a lot of things for you, I think people are going to value what you said even more.
AI is absolutely fantastic. Like, I'm really excited about it. That's where the gold is. That's how you're going to trip up on something, the happy accident, and go, yeah, that's the thing. That's what it really feels like.
Today's guest is Phil Garnham, an executive creative director at Monotype. With over 20 years of experience, he has designed typefaces, logo types for global brands like BBC, Nike, Warner Brothers. I'm sure all of you are familiar with those names. His expertise has been featured in publications like Creative Review, The Economist. I'm sure you guys have heard of those as well. And his current role at Monotype, which by the way, we just did a partnership with Monotype. Go check that video out. He does everything from consulting for major accounts to helping with creative strategy, to helping content and the marketing team, to just everything else. There's so much more. I mean, his bio on LinkedIn, which you can check out down below, is insane. So go check that out. So you're going to learn a lot from this episode. So Phil, I want to start with something maybe a little bit less serious, a little bit more fun for you. You probably have gotten this question intermittently over the past several years because technology is like going insane, especially with just graphic design in general, but specifically in type development. But let's talk about trends for a second. Yeah. I want to know for you, which current or upcoming font trends or typeface trends, however you want to call it, which excite you the most? What have you like just been like, yo, that is nice, we got to do more of that? Or yeah, like what's coming up that's exciting you in the font world?
Well, I think with trends, like I've got to a point where I'm almost sick of them, like, or at least sick of the idea of a trend. Like,
really? Because you've seen it all.
No, I mean, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I feel like it's just like in my brain. I feel like I've made this mental shift over the past maybe 2 years where it's become less about like what a typeface or a trendy type, I don't know, gathering like sway looks like, and more about actually what's making that happen. Like, so
okay, I see.
Yeah. So we're thinking about a lot about, I don't know, like why all of a sudden is there this blurred media boundary between typefaces and fonts and other forms of media, like, I don't know, cameras or sounds, or, you know, just how are fonts sort of transforming themselves as APIs. So I think that's like an interesting shift that I've seen in them. I think it probably comes off the back of all the AI development and just like, I don't know, variable fonts and a lot of all the tech developments in general. But I know I'm thinking a lot about kind of like, I don't know, AI is one thing, but also like culture at large. So what's going on in the world in terms of like global conflict, and how are those things fueling brands to think a little bit differently about positioning themselves, and like how does that influence the shape of forms and the way we communicate? Or, you know, the political world right now is like wild. You know, what's going on there? You know, freedom, law and order, the way we impose like rules on society with typography in a way. So, you know, there's loads of stuff going on. I guess the most important trend for me right now is the environment. Like, how are we as designers going to respond to that? And
Interesting.
I mean, it's happening. You know, there are a lot of studios rebranding themselves as kind of eco agencies.
Right.
I'm really interested in kind of like how we can do that with fonts now. So that's something I'm exploring a lot internally here. Is kind of like how fonts can be more, I don't know, more sustainable, more carbon aware, more, how can we reduce the data load? How can we even address like the cultural kind of shift between different societies? The way I see, you know, environmental topics is probably very different to the way you perceive them, because we live in different places of the world, different lifestyles. Yeah, that really interests me. Like, how can we explore all these kind of broader topics and trends? Yeah, variable fonts are here. Stuff moves.
Stuff moves. Yeah,
stuff is zingy. You know, typefaces are zingy, but like, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, it's
like
so
getting
curious.
this stuff away from it.
Yeah, I doubt that people go there in their minds when they think of fonts or type development, but it's interesting to hear your back end approach to it where you're thinking more of like, okay, well, that's interesting. How would I, like you said, I like what you said, like, how would I decrease the data load, right? And for people to kind of understand, like, just think about how much energy it takes to load a web page,
Mhm.
So it obviously takes energy to show the type when
Yeah.
you're using your programs like a Kittl, like Illustrator, whatever. It takes energy to show those, the file of that typeface. So that's super interesting. I doubt people go there quickly in their mind unless you've actually gone through and tried to develop a font. It's quite a bit of work, actually, especially if you're going to do something with multiple weights. It's a lot of work. So I think that's super interesting. Um,
Think
Now
about
let me
languages like, you could Chinese, Japanese, like the time,
exactly.
even just the design time to actually make the font. What's your footprint in actually developing a typeface of that enormity?
Curious.
Um, yeah, so I'm really, yeah, we've got some really interesting data on that, and hopefully we'll talk more about that
Oh,
later in the
that's
year.
super cool. So let me ask you in a similar vein, but maybe let's talk more about like now let's think visually, just kind of what the face value, the look of the type. Do you believe that there's anything particularly overhyped or problematic in the type world right now where it's just like we should stop praising this one font, or we should like maybe stop committing this one type crime in this thing. Is there something like that on your mind?
Crimes on there's
Type
all
crimes.
there's always type crimes. I don't know, like as a type designer, and I try not to actually look at a lot of fonts. Like I just don't. I feel like I've seen a lot, and I don't want that to inspire me. I want like a project or like the
Mm,
brand or the
that's cool.
like the
Yeah,
vibe to inspire me. Like I want to see something original in the shape of a letter that
man, that's cool.
makes that subliminal connection. The biggest issue I have, like in terms of like the trends topic and what we're
Hmm.
seeing, is
Hmm.
foundries repeating themselves in the same genre, like the sans serif, the neo grotesque, the grotesque, the geometric. It's like this ongoing, like
Yeah,
circular conversation. Every day there's a new one launched. Woohoo! The world doesn't need it. We've got so many of those.
and there's a remake of the same thing with the same name, but then just something in front of it. It's Helvetica something something
Yeah,
plus
it's like
Twisty Dynamic 3.
yeah, and it's like my version of the classic, this classic, or my version of that classic,
Mm,
and it's all about actually generated around licensing. Like that's the real thing
yeah,
that isn't spoken about. They want their version, but so they can sell it or undercut their competitor.
exactly.
And
Yep.
it's I just for me, like as a designer, as a creative, I didn't get into this
Mm,
to do that. I got into this because I wanted to make my mark on the world. I wanted to just create new things. Like I'm driven by like the idea of creating the thing that hasn't been seen before. And if you're not
mm.
really being progressive about creativity, then what get out of the game? Why are you doing this? You're just creating unnecessary noise. Why for me? Like yeah.
Yeah, so there's an important distinction, yeah, there between copying, basically directly and like you're saying, ingenuity, ideation, like you're saying, even if it is influenced from old, because generally everything is not necessarily created out of a vacuum. But like, yeah, how did you take it, the influence, like, this plant over here and what kinds of letter forms could come out of that? Or like I have a friend that developed a really, really beautiful uh, typeface from tree branches, and man, it was just cool. Like just the development of like going into that, and like obviously it's very decorative for one specific kind of use, but just that idea is like, man, this is like the creative process is what led me here. I didn't like go off a trend or I didn't go off a thing. I used the like nature to be like, yo, what would this look like if I took nature and I turned it into letters? You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's like a more of an sort of like it's very unique, but like a purpose behind that. It's driven
Mm,
for a reason, like it has a reason to exist. And if those like fonts that look the same as other fonts do solve problems and do have a reason to exist, fair enough. Well, there may be a really specific technical thing that or part of the
true.
story that isn't being told, but like for most of it, I'm pretty cynical about this, and
Mm,
I kind of see it as like a business tactic as opposed to actually worthy creative goodness, which is
right.
what I'm exploring.
Yeah, it's a good principle
Mm.
to take into multiple areas of design as well. So it's definitely a good thing to keep in mind. So I want to ask a little bit about your design process, your type process. And I think people that are, the type nerds that are here, everybody that's watching that has been with us for a long time, you guys know that we started as Heritage Type. We're still Heritage Type, the font foundry, with Tobias's amazing fonts and stuff. But now we're Kittl, obviously. We have all that stuff in there. We got the Monotype fonts in there, which all of you can go try out right now. But I want to talk to the type nerds for a second that I know are curious about you and your experience and your processes. And so maybe you can give us kind of like a behind the scenes a little bit. So you're like, I want to know how you're taking an idea, and you're going through a typical workflow of developing type. So yeah, that could look like how you start with getting influenced, what your sketching kind of looks like, anything from how you're starting to then getting into the computer. And the reason I say that is because like I have a friend, um, absolutely amazing type designer, starts right in glyphs. Like he just sees it. He sees it in his head. No need for paper, no need for whatever. He just has done it so many times. He's like, I know how to experiment. I know where the points go. Da da da. Then I have another amazing friend. He crushes these, like you're saying, kind of very innovative. I haven't really seen these before. He's getting out brushes and splotches and paint and vegetables and all this kind of stuff, and like just marking everything up and having fun. You know what I mean? And he creates something very different. So the process is they both arrive at a very beautifully well-crafted type, but the process is different. So I want to know what that looks like for you, if you can walk us through it.
Yeah, for sure. Like, and it's funny you mentioned vegetables because previously, I think one of our clients, Diageo and Bailey's, we actually did get out like the icing sugar and attempt to draw script,
Yeah,
with the sense that it is actually Bailey's, the presence of that the
that's
vibe.
cool.
But like, I feel like I don't know, like it depends a little bit on each project, and
Yeah.
I think it's pretty much always a sketchbook for me. Like I've
Okay.
always straight in there. Like you don't get that freedom anywhere else. I totally get that idea as well. Like you've got a vision, you can see it in your head, and you got to get on screen. But
Mm.
and that's, to be fair, that is how I learned type design. Like I never actually went to university to study type design. I spent a year just working around the circuit in London as a designer, as a junior designer, working the Face magazine, C Design, a couple of other places, and eventually just ran into this guy, Jason Smith, who had just started Font Smith, and he essentially said, "Do you want to learn on the job, be my apprentice, figure it out as we go?" And we did that for a long time until I became a sort of co-director of the business.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, essentially, like, knowing where to put stuff is great. It's good technical practice.
Sure.
Knowing where the thick part is, knowing where the thin part of the shape is, knowing what the effect that has if you start manipulating, playing with these features. That's all great. And doing that on screen is perfect. But if you want to come up with actual ideas, well, I find that is the sketchbook space. That's like, we designed the ITV logo with a chap called Matthew Rudd. And it is exactly the same process of like sitting on the train, just like noodling away, like scribbling. That's where the idea came from. How it became to be like that unique mark that is on TV today. And that's just through, just like, and same with Duolingo as well. Like with Michael Johnson, just like, oh, look at the wing. Let's try and explore that wing shape. And that noodling is just, it's a freeform thing, right? It's your sketchbook. So I'm always a sketchbook fan. I think just about every like new concept that we pitch is, at least from my side, is like just a sketch, like
Okay.
very rough, like.
And when you're doing this, yeah, when you're doing the sketches, like I wonder if this is perhaps what some people struggle with.
Hmm.
What are you sketching every letter? Are you sketching the most important letters? Like, I've heard that it's, H and O. Some other people would say you got to throw S in there. Some people, yeah. So are you like or I've also heard from other type designers, like they want to kind of sketch a word, right? In the style that kind of like hits a pretty high amount of the variables that you would create. So what are you sketching outside of, like you said, with the Duolingo? Okay, well, how could we use the wing? Whatever it is, like what are you sketching exactly?
I think the word is key, but
Okay.
but the initial outset of sketch for me is like, is like just like the N and the O, and it's quite
The
traditional.
N and the O. Okay.
Yeah, so lowercase n, lowercase o, you get a lot of information, visual information, and DNA from those two characters alone. Just like stem way, shoulder style, junction style,
Mm,
roundness. All of these kind of the divide, and I feel like that's
sure.
the that's the for me. Like is generally the N and the O, and then as soon as I start thinking like, I start feeling like, oh, this is going in a direction that maybe just is a bit different. Then it's the words, then it's the sentiment, then it's the kind of those key sort of pieces of messaging in the campaign that are going to get people invested and going. Because when they see, as I think like, actually a lot of type designers don't talk about color or the environment or context very much, but I feel like that is also a really key component. So I feel like hitting those sort of initial marks, kind of feeling like you're going somewhere, but then getting that sense that this thing can be owned, putting it into the color scheme, putting it over photography, putting even just the one letter shape over a piece of photography that's related to the brand.
Interesting.
Just trying to build like a brand world through letter forms and other assets. So when you're
Yeah.
pitching your idea, it's only, you can kind of see how it gels, whether it's right anyway. Is it, and does it feel different? It has to
Yeah.
feel different.
Man, that's cool. Man, that is so cool. I don't think that most people would stop the not stop, but let me just say check the process that early with putting one letter over something, or graphically what is the environment it's going to live in. Maybe they do. Maybe I'm just naive.
Yeah, and
But I think
it's not radical. It's just
yeah.
building it up, aren't you, as a system? And maybe that doesn't work quite right. And how if I bring that piece from
Mm,
this photograph or this piece of furniture or whatever it is, just bring it into the letter shape. That for me,
man, yeah.
yeah.
That's really cool. So, let me ask a little bit more about the process of okay, we've done some sketches in the book. We're perhaps we've experimented with what would need to be lowercase or uppercase or both. What is your process then for, and maybe this is helpful for people trying to learn or trying to get better at it. How are you putting it into the computer, and then what is the process of your digitization uh, workflow? And I know this is difficult to do because we're not like sharing a screen and showing anything, but like I think it can be helpful when some people would say like, oh, well, I actually take pictures. Other people, they may scan it. Other people, they may use one tool over another tool. We could give some tips that help people just from your workflow.
Mhm. I feel like at this point I'm in a place where I can normally hit the vibe freestyle on screen. So,
Oh,
okay,
really? So
uh,
you've drawn, and then you're just going to replicate it on screen.
yeah, totally.
Wow,
But
incredible.
if it doesn't feel right though at that point, then you get into the scan zone. But yeah, it's for me, it's yeah, you start feeling it out. Like you almost like you've chiseled away at it on in your pencil with your pencil, and you're just like, oh yeah, okay, I'm gonna move it over here, and then just
Mm,
redraw it. But yeah, I mean, it changes every time, really. I mean, sometimes, like, especially at Monotype, we're designing a lot of like workhorse kind of brand fonts.
for
And some of
sure.
the briefs can be incredibly like complex and just like, okay, we need to hit this sort of this height, this stem width at this height for this back of pack. You know,
Interesting.
big global brands that are rebranding, they need to have they've got to follow accessibility guidelines, all of this stuff. So and then there's somewhere for all of the guardrails around your projects, you have to find the uniqueness as well and something that they know. Um, it's kind of fun though. You need those
Yeah.
guidelines as well sometimes.
Do you prefer a certain tool over another tool in terms of font development? Do you think that in this time they're relatively equal? Um, like what kind of tools are you using to craft these things?
Glyphs, that's it. Everything bespoke. We model it to our own standards. At Monotype, we have loads of proprietary tools, like in the engineering team. Like these guys
Yeah.
are literally writing or helping to write the open type spec for everyone around the world.
That's so cool.
So
Yeah.
like, they're also building their own tools and solving problems all the time. And
That's awesome.
yeah, it's great. It's great. And even like, actually, if you take it, and even some of the custom fonts, they're pushing the boundaries of like what's possible and then supporting the development of tools. So we had, a couple of years ago, I did the Every rebrand. I don't know if you've seen that. It's a sort of like a weird variable font that cycles through lots of different versions of the same character as you're typing.
Mm.
And the whole idea was around like, oh, but it's a courier company. They're like one of the biggest in the UK, and they wanted a different logo for every single truck, and they got 4,000 trucks. In the end, we
A
created
different logo for every truck? What is that?
yeah.
What does that mean?
So basically, they wanted a unique version of their logo type on every single one of their trucks, delivery trucks in the UK.
What would they say? Just what?
Literally just the brand name. So the
Uh-huh.
logo type itself would adapt and change.
Interesting.
This idea is, so essentially I built a variable font that made 194,000 different versions of the logo, just recycling through different characters, which is like
What?
crazy. But because of that project, not many people really know this. Like they think, oh, it's not really a major brand, it's not that important. But that project actually then fueled a lot of development on the Glyphs app side. We worked with Jorg and Rainer in developing further tools in the Glyphs app. We then worked with Adobe and Microsoft on their variable font spec, and there were updates made on those software platforms as well to help support the use of that one brand font. So there's lots
Whoa.
of really interesting stories inside all the work we're doing at Monotype. We're developing new tools all the time. We're doing often 500-600 custom fonts a year that no one ever
Holy
sees.
cow. And do you have a hand in almost all of those, or?
Oh, no way.
Okay,
We have a page. Yeah.
You said that one has a not 194,000. What did you say?
Yeah, I think it's 194,000. Maybe I got that. It's definitely in the 190 something thousands. But yeah, that's super fun project. The case study is on the Monotype website.
Yeah, I'll definitely link that down below. So, I mean, this is a great segue because my next question is kind of about working with these bigger brands. So, when you are creating one of these custom fonts, as you kind of gave us an insight into that one specifically, or a global brand, we could say like Nike's. Yeah, that's pretty global, right?
Yeah.
How maybe let's use Nike as an example. I think everybody knows that. So how did you balance that brand's existing personality with the requirement or the need for something distinct for their type, right? So they had something existing, and then you've come in, and now you kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. You have to say like, okay, I have some boundaries in the sandbox, but I do need to dig this hole and find some gold here. Like, how did you balance that? Like, maybe just walk us through, I mean, what the heck did that even look like? Like making type for Nike, like, yeah, like what does that look like?
It's different every time. Like that Nike example was very strange at the time. I remember it was like one creative director's vision internally in the design team. He was like, I've done it. I've noodled on a couple of characters. Let's extrapolate this and turn it into a much bigger thing. So that was, to be honest, that Nike job was quite easy, and that was to relaunch a New England football shirt, like just the campaign typeface. But I don't know, like you're right. How do you balance that idea of the brand, overarching brand, and the subsidiaries, and factor all these things into it? It's you just know. I think it's intuition. Like
Really?
degree.
Okay. Like it's like vibes, right? It's almost like vibes.
Yeah, it totally is vibes. The type, you just know when it's not right. And you become known almost as I don't want to say a tastemaker in a way, but like you kind of like, you have a sense, like a weird kind of like additional, like, oh, right, that ain't right. It doesn't feel right. I can't, but then and then just even sometimes it can be as simple as the proportions of the letter shapes. They can, I mean, it could be quite a generic looking font, but the proportions are a bit weird. And you're like, I know who that is because it just feels like them, when you look at something.
Yeah, true.
It's a tricky question.
I mean, how much experimentation, like you said, I mean, I like what you just said. You said that like feels like them. And I this is actually something that we like to talk a lot about on Kittl, especially with the videos that my brother does on typography specific. He'll commonly say things like when he's dissecting a design, perhaps it's a t-shirt a typographic t-shirt design, very heavy type. He'll say, if I used this other font, it's not the personality becomes something completely different. So a completely different shirt. It's for a different audience, for a different thing, right?
Mhm.
And so
Really?
I think what you said there is really important. You said it doesn't feel like them. So what does the experimentation process look like? I mean, I'm sure that the client, whoever the client is, doesn't have to be Nike, whatever, they probably don't necessarily care what your experimentation process looks like because they're wanting you to come back with something that's awesome. But what does that look like? How much, yeah, discovery are you going through to get to that thing where you're like, man, that actually feels like them. Like we have something here.
So the weird thing about type design is that even I feel like it's becoming less the case, but when you find really good designers or you build a team of really good type designers, when you ask them to respond to the same brief, one, they all respond differently.
Mm,
And you can almost tell who's drawn which creative option based on the way the curve flows or the
weird. So
nature.
if you were blind checking, you're
Yeah,
saying
I definitely
interesting.
like you can tell like straight away. Like in our former studio, like before I joined Monotype, I was at Fontsmith, as creative director there for like 18 years, and I used to, sit down with the guys, brief them, put all our work up on the wall, and I go, that was made by Fernando, that was made by Krista, that was made by Pedro. It's just like you could just see.
Wow. Yeah, you could tell.
So, and that difference in response is super helpful. Somewhere in the through line in there, somewhere is something connecting all of them, and you can normally
Mm,
find the essence of that, and then really amplify it as sort of the main kind of the main sell or the main sort of concept positioning for the client. So I feel yeah, I mean, I'm dancing around a bit. But there is, this kind of inner, drawing thing that is very personal and connected to you.
mm. Yeah,
And yeah, somewhere out of that, I think you can pick out and find the client's voice. Um,
that's really cool. So that leads me to another question. Like when you're doing a project like this, I never really thought about kind of how many people might be involved. So yeah, when you're handling a big project like that, how many people are involved? Do you have like, are there people that are under you in terms of like helping for defining stuff? Or is this like a project where you take on the project yourself and like, I'm going to start to finish this? Like, how does the big project like that work? How many people are on it?
I used to, yeah, I used to be very hands-on, like incredibly hands-on, but it's just got untenable now as an idea, which is like really kind of like upsetting. But I can't, and I'm enjoying doing different things now. But like
Sure.
the in terms of like the team, we normally brief it out. Like I did a briefing earlier on today for just an internal project. I had about like 6 designers from the type team come in to hear me out. We discussed ideas, general directions, and we're going to meet again. Like I think in a week and a half's time, they're going to come back, pitch stuff to me.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Things
So
out.
6.
Yeah, it's quick. And there'll be a Slack channel. We'll be chatting the whole way through, talking about. Well, they'll be sort of showing those initial characters, there's initial sketches, there's initial ideas, and we'll be sort of debating that over the next week and a half. So, but yeah, we work quick. Like I like to work quick. And I feel like that pressure, like of saying that you have to be back and in this, actually is really helpful for creatives. Like I've always been one of those designers that has to feel that pressure if I have a little bit
Mm,
too much time,
interesting.
especially type designers. He's never quite finished, so you
Yeah.
really
It
want
could always be
to,
better, right? It can always
yeah,
be different. It can always be better. Yeah.
yeah. So you got to drive it. You really got to be firm with yourself and really say, "Look, I'm going to commit to a direction at this point, or or at least for out of those 6 ideas, maybe we'll choose 3 to really hone
Mm,
in on, and then use and build actual narratives around them and reasons why they exist. And like I said, all that stuff. I don't
mm.
want to like go into a meeting with a customer and sort of pitching something that's like, oh, it's just another version of a thing that we saw on the internet.
That we saw. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. That's cool.
why should I give it? No, it has to speak to us. It has to say something about you.
Yeah. So when you're doing more of the leading, right, the more of the
Mm.
managing, and you said that you're a little bit less hands-on, which is sad. I also can relate to that feeling. Um, what are you doing just personally or yeah, for yourself that does give you some sort of hands-on like sanity? Like what are you are you one that like you just like to sketch things out just because, or like do you have any passion or personal things, which I know is already a tough question because you're probably
It's not.
very busy. I'm very busy, but yeah.
I'm a serial hobbyist. Right, that's
Okay, yeah.
one of my a blessing and a curse. My
Mm.
family are always like, just like, "Where's daddy?" "Oh, no, he's in the garage again, like, playing the drums," or he's like like, building something for the garden. Like, last weekend, I
Mm.
was putting down a new path. Yeah, I've got my guitars, you can see them on the wall, but I'm really into street photography as well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's a big thing for me, like, especially I'm doing a lot of traveling now with Monotype and meeting customers everywhere, like, so it's kind of ideal.
Oh,
Like,
that's cool. Yeah, that's cool.
it's really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do a lot of like sort of graphic novel kind of sketching as well. I'm not sure things to do. Like it's kind of wild. I was actually trained to be a yoga teacher as well, not so long ago. So I,
Wow.
yeah, I've got it all going on. Do a lot of running. Built a gym recently at the bottom of my garden. It was lovely. So,
That's
what are you?
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm quite hands on. I like that. I think I'm getting as I sort of progress through my career and I don't know, I guess like getting more into like this more creative direction kind of role, I feel like I'm gravitating more to hands-on sort of
Yeah.
value creativity and the building of stuff like
Mm.
physically. I think it's weird, like but I've become really drawn to it, and maybe it's just my age or something, but I just want to build stuff,
Well,
and
I think that more it's just such a good point because the more and more things become automated and more AI and more all this stuff. I mean, now it's like hard sometimes to distinguish between was that an avatar or a person in the video, that you saw? Was
Mm.
this ad made with AI or was it actually, you know? So I'm seeing, I mean, you're exactly right, not only in the hands-on nature of building, doing something else creative or just working differently with your hands, but I'm even seeing people translate that into what they're doing digitally, right? We're coming back to doing lots more uh, collage, scrapbooking, stop motion has become popular again, right? Where they're setting it up, moving something, stopping the camera, starting it,
Yeah.
and there's so much cool, interesting stuff. And so I think the more that automation is coming in, the more that AI can do a lot of things for you, I think people are going to value what you said even more. They're going to value much more of the hands-on, tactile, physical thing, you know?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And it's kind of almost driving a bit of a weird undercurrent kind of like motivation for me to try and discover the third dimension of typography
Mm,
that doesn't really exist properly right now.
sure.
And I've seen a lot of really interesting sort of experiments with, especially in like metaverse world. That's still a thing. People are noodling. Like you can see, like almost like these new layered worlds of AR. Like, or people are virtual graffitiing like in environments. So
Right.
they're creating like letter forms, big sort of sculptural pieces in this virtual world. You can still turn up and look at them and see them move and animate and interact with them. Um, yeah, that's kind I'm interested in that, like, because I feel like, and I sort of touched on that before with that idea of like the blurring boundary between media
Yeah.
form and type. Like, I think we're not long soon. A little bit soon there'll be like typographic APIs,
Yep.
different ways to segment and interact with metadata to find fonts, like breaking down that whole kind of like discarded sort of taxonomy that we have around type as like different all these words that are kind of like meaningless in this day and age. I'm interested in breaking down that and like talking about it in a real world sense, like emotional. What's the emotional sentiment behind this, and what's causing that,
Mm.
and in that letter shape. So all these kind of there's lots of ideas bubbling. You can probably tell, but I think it's a really exciting time.
Yeah. So, I mean, on that subject of AI, we have to talk about it a little bit, just because I'm really curious onto how this is going to influence the type world.
Mhm.
How do you see the AI developments? Like, are there going to be AI driven tools, generative or assistive, right? So things that would help you curating, and then generative would just mean it just made it. Shaping the future of design. Basically, like how do you see that shaping the future of type design? I mean, um, like, yeah, I mean, is it? I mean, obviously, just give your thoughts broadly. Not necessarily it's going to be scary or it's going to be great. Just wonder how it's going to be like either generative or assistive. I've already seen like Creative Fabrica has attempted to create a tool that will generate a font from AI. No offense to them, I couldn't really get anything that I liked from it, but yeah, just like stuff like that. I'm just curious to know your thoughts.
Yeah, there is definitely a lot of people noodling in this space, like trying to uncover the gold. And AI is absolutely fantastic. Like I'm really excited about it.
Mm.
There's discover just on the Monotype side, we already released like this pairing tool like a year or two ago.
Yes.
But we also have what it was it the contextual search, which actually just
Love that.
yeah, but it's like that idea of uncovering the sentiment behind like the message,
Emotion, reasoning. Yeah.
But then there's also just how type is in AI generated imagery. Like it's not very good right now, but
No,
it's getting there.
it's not.
Actually, no, though I did see something last week that blew my mind. But there was
Really?
it's like it's going to get good, and like we've definitely been experimenting with that, especially in Monotype fonts. Like we have some new tools launching there, which will actually take our fonts, put them into a proper AI generated context, and you can see the thing before you apply it to your designs, which is really
Oh, right. I think I actually did see that on a recent demo, which was really cool with Monotype. It was nice.
nice. On the type design side, there are a lot of people saying they can do it, as you said, like, and they not very little kind of follow through when you get into it. It's like, really, is that it?
I mean, it's a cool idea.
I mean, like everyone's trying to, bro. I think like there's this whole, I don't know. I get the sense that there's this kind of big surge to be the first to kind of make it. I'm interested in like what Adobe are doing is in terms of like they had a project called Glyphies, which they kind of demoed a few years ago at Max, and it hasn't been seen since. But they were able to just kind of take one or two letters and generate like a whole alphabet
No, yeah.
within the ecosystem. So I think you're going to see a lot more kind of proprietary kind of like almost like more lettering tools as opposed to long form typography tools, where you
Interesting.
it's more it's almost like quirky kind of crazy like pizza lettering or whatever you want to call it. Just it's like, oh, I've got this idea for whatever such and such local shop. Can I generate the full alphabet? And I think that's going to happen a lot more. But inside like of those ecosystems, not really as a licensable font.
Sure.
But yeah, it's interesting, and obviously, we're looking at stuff at Monotype. We have to. We're kind of leading a lot in sort of the type space. So watch this space, see what happens.
What do people need to know when you say things like licensable as a font? Like what do people need to know when they're trying to generate things like this with AI, and perhaps they're trying to sell them, or perhaps they're using it to create something for a client? Like what makes something licensable versus not appropriate?
I think there's still like this whole legal question up in the air about who owns the generated output to begin with. Like,
Right.
If you're building specific models to try and generate letter forms, do you have permissions? I went to a brilliant talk at a conference Web Summit in Portugal in Lisbon last year. As a lawyer from New York, and I forget his name, but he was talking about, just the way in which image sort of AI image-based AI has just scanned or scraped the entire web. It's eaten everything up. And how do you disentangle like information, your copyrighted imagery from from its model? You can't. Once it's in there, it's digested it. And so I think there's a lot, you have to be careful about like sort of like to what and assess sort of to what degree, have you been involved in what you've created and what's been created? And, have you really bought enough of yourself? Have you created something unique? Can you imagine like in the future, just, we're already talking about all these like geometric, grotesque fonts that are just swamping the market. It's like, how many more of them do we really need? And like how many? Yeah, we're going to see tons. It's going to be insane.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And in some ways, when you look at it like that, I feel very like lucky to like have ideas and like be able to like ideate and as an individual, as a thinker, as a mind,
Mm.
because I know that I'll be able to step away from that space and provide the true differentiation that what branding is. Branding is like positioning and strategy and creating that uniqueness. It's the whole point of branding. It's like,
Yeah, for sure.
so, I feel
Yeah.
like in privileged positions, but feel like I can do that and will continue to do that. I'm not worried about it.
That's awesome, man. That's very encouraging. I want to know, yeah, a little bit more about what Monotype is doing. You already mentioned a couple things that are exciting that people can go and try out now. Maybe what if anything can you tell us that y'all are working on at Monotype that's just going to help with this? Any tools that they don't have to be AI specific, although I'm sure there's probably some sort of hand in data that AI will help with. But yeah, like what's coming up that Monotype's going to be doing that's going to just help the type world that people can get super hyped for.
I think it's difficult for me to talk about anything on the type side.
All right, well, let's not get anybody fired.
I
So
can definitely talk about stuff on the customer side,
yeah, okay,
which is definitely, which to be honest is the whole reason. Which is we are building a lot of around a lot of tools inside Monotype fonts. So Monotype fonts really is going to for me, like, it feels like a real game changer in terms of how it's remodeling the whole model, the whole licensing position. And
oh really?
yeah, like when it doesn't even feel like we're selling type to a degree, a Monotype anymore. We're selling like a library to, I think, 250,000
Right.
different typefaces.
Yes, 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 yes.
You
True,
buy a
true.
license, you buy one license with Monotype, and you get all the fonts. Essentially,
Yeah, that's cool.
um,
It's almost like a subscription or like a lifetime subscription kind of deal.
exactly. And the foundries are all part of that. They will take a share
Oh, cool.
of that, which is obviously where the whole point of Monotype is really about leveling up the type industry,
For
uh,
sure.
and supporting the type industry. So we're very much like in that space. So it feels like almost like I'm not. I guess it's moved from type design for me to typography, like a much in a broader.
As the category, yeah.
Yes, yeah, like it's not so much about just one typeface. It's more about how you're pairing. It's how you're building like bigger identity systems across, and how then you're modifying to make them more unique to you. So, yeah, it's interesting time. We certainly, and if you think about that model, like we're building a lot of reporting tools, not just for
Cool.
for the foundries that work with us, so they can see where their fonts are used,
Yeah, yeah.
how they're used internally along this database, how much money they're going to make over the
How would
course.
you be able to tell them how they're being used?
Because all of our clients are on also using
Oh, got it.
volume through the same portal. So
Got it.
you can see when a font is spec'd or chosen for a specific project. And that's on that side as well. On the client side, there's a lot of managerial tools, so they can like deploy fonts to their teams, different agencies.
Whoa. Okay.
It's
Okay.
it's this whole ecosystem of like type distribution, all wrapped up in one space. And I really feel like that is the future of type at the moment in terms of like the model. This idea of like
Mm.
one-off license purchases.
Yeah, it sounds like you
What a
guys
weird.
are trying to destroy the gatekeeping issue to a degree.
Yeah,
That's what it
it's
sounds like.
completely like we have like we have a foundry team that we have open sessions where everyone is fully very transparent about how we're working, and you know it I don't know, it just feels like a much more freer and organic way of using and selecting and choosing type, as opposed to just that, oh, I need to buy a license for this thing over here, but I need to get another license for this thing over
Mm.
here, and I need to buy one of this style over here. And it's like, no, this is all
And
like,
oh, now we're gonna put it in an app. Oh, now we need another one for the app. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And oh, I now need a license for a logo. Why the founders are offering logo licenses, I have no idea.
I didn't even know that that was a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing. Like a lot of smaller foundries are doing that, and
Huh.
people are tripping up on it. And it's just like, no, let's open it up. Let's make this thing a lot more accessible. Let's make it a lot more simple. Like type is a really complex area, so let's like just try and simplify it for everyone. And
Yeah, it is. It
yeah,
really is. I mean, I mean, obviously we have everything that's in Kittl is used for specifically for anything from personal to commercial and commission stuff. And we made sure that the fonts we have in Kittl are for that, but we still get these kinds of questions you're saying, like, can I use it for this project? Can I use it? And it's like, Yeah, you don't need to ask us that anymore. You can do you can use it. You can do it. Like we don't need to distinguish anymore. Just use the type.
Yeah, yeah, and it's an education. Yeah, it feels like typography has constantly been like an education piece, like, and it will continue to be that way. And in the future with AI, like, who knows what it's going to be? It could be like just one typeface with all the typefaces in it. I don't know. Like, just
Curious,
morphing around in a big space or of some
right?
kind. Um,
Yeah, interesting. So I think just the last thing I want to ask you, because we have obviously a lot of designers, a lot of upcoming graphic designers, people learning, people using Kittl for a variety of reasons, but I would say graphic design is the highest use case. I want to know from the type side and talking a little bit about brand identity, which you have a lot of experience with. Um, we can land on helping up and coming, right? New designers, people who are trying to grow. Like, I just want to know like the encouraging things that you would say to them as they're growing in their design skills in either picking and choosing and pairing type. Like what kind of maybe what are the pitfalls they should avoid? What's just the encouragement that you can give to them? Like where can they learn more about just being really dedicated over their selecting of type as they grow in their design skills?
it's a great shout. I think the funny thing about pairing fonts is that there's this sort of like weird idea that there are rules to pairing fonts.
Mm,
Right. And somebody else knows the hidden trick to pairing in the right way. And that doesn't actually exist. No one wrote the rule book. It's, yeah, it's kind of wild. And even now at Monotype, we have developers and designers in all different departments say, how do you pair fonts, Phil? We need a blog post on this. And it's like, you know
right.
what? You don't need to worry about pairing fonts. I mean, honestly, like as I said at the beginning, like I'm a massive advocate of that intuition piece. Um, I mean, you can go about it in multiple ways. Like, sure, you can look at the proportions of
Yeah.
an alphabet and you go, okay, I've got a serif here. I want to find a sans with similar proportions or that has the same sort of squareness or the same kind of like X height or the same sort of ascenders and all that kind of thing. Or the G is the same as the one in the serif. And all this.
Oh,
You,
right. Yeah.
you can get really nerdy about it. You can go for it. Or you can just like throw stuff around and see what sticks. And I find that's often the path to finding, the difference, the thing that's going to go.
Yeah.
Because, I mentioned before about that idea of uniqueness. So uniqueness comes in many forms. It doesn't have to be, essentially, it doesn't have to be like just one alphabet or one that feels super unique. It could be a combination of things that kind of changes the vibe as well.
Right.
You might be close, but you're not quite there. And
Yeah.
then you bring something else in, it does suddenly feel different. So I feel it's pretty organic. Like, and I know that's a really vague answer especially for like
No, it's good.
newbies like coming through. But I welcome like exploration
Exploration.
massively, because that's where the gold is. That's how you're going to trip up on something, the happy accident, and go, yeah, that's the thing. That really feels like different, and it works. So roll with it.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think that my fear for new and upcoming designers would be going down the rabbit hole of like extremely strict guidelines, guides, grids, X height, and that those are all good things. I think learning the principles of typography in terms
And
of the categories and how type is interacting with itself, I think you need those things. But then, like you're saying, it's like, yeah, but these also evoke an emotion, right? When you see a logo type or a flyer or a brand or a movie poster, like these things are supposed to make you, I mean, communicate obviously and feel something, right? So I think like throwing them around, like you said, to be like, oh, that feels right, that feels good. I think that's such freeing advice.
yeah, and I think maybe I'm saying that like maybe there's a little bit of arrogance in that, like because I've been out for a while and like feel like I
True.
can do that. But
True.
just read a few books, thinking with type.
Yeah, thinking with type is great.
Yeah, there's tons of stuff out there. Detail in typography. Just read those like classic modernist typographic rules, Emil Ruder, but then move on and then just go, okay, I can do this myself. Believe in yourself, your own abilities as well. It's a lot more about type design and typography is a lot more about your eyes and what you see. It's not mathematical. It's not. There's no hidden formula. It's like, yeah, trying to get to be this is the thing.
Great. Phil, thanks so much for taking the time to hang out with us and discuss typography. This was excellent for me because I'm a type nerd. That's how I got into design. Is there anywhere you want me to direct people to? Can you tell people where they should find or follow you, where maybe they could learn more? Obviously, Monotype, all that stuff's linked below, but just for you personally or anything upcoming, like, is there anywhere you want to direct people to I can put down in the description?
Oh, just say it. Hi on LinkedIn. That's cool. And maybe go and check out our new revision type trends campaign, which is launching like different and new sort of activations every 2 months. We've done sound and vision a couple of weeks ago, Collins at South by Southwest, and we're going to be launching a new thing on AI in the next couple of weeks. So that is just monotype.com/type-trends.
Okay, got it. All that'll be linked in the description for all of you all. If there's something that we discussed during this interview, comment below if you want to learn more, right? Because otherwise we don't really know what to talk about. So if you had a question, one of us can answer it for sure. I'm sure Phil will be happy to eventually come back on. Maybe we can jam for, later on typography. So please comment down below if you have questions about things, if you're curious about something. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel because it helps us out a ton. And we will see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.